Hey friend, welcome back to Hey Wait. It's really good to be here with you again. And if this is your first time here, welcome. I'm really happy that someone shared this with you or that you stumbled across this podcast in the podcast universe on your own, but it's good to have you here. It's been a minute since I've done a solo episode, and I'll tell you a little bit more about why that is in a minute. But first, I want to out myself. I um, Whenever I do a solo podcast or when I do the introductions for a guest, I always write out a script and then read it because one, I'm a lot better at expressing myself when I'm writing. I don't do a great job of thinking on my feet. Um, Two, because I'm worried that if I don't write it all down, I'll either forget something important or I'll ramble and ramble and ramble, or I'll lose my words, which is very frequent these days. Um, yeah, it feels freaking terrifying to me. So I write a script and then I read a teleprompter and it makes it a lot easier for me. But what I will say is it makes it so that I don't feel as connected to you. And it's really important to me in doing this podcast. One of the main reasons I wanted to do it was to create more connection, right? Create more skills and opportunities for those of us who long for connection to have it in our lives, and hopefully also to model that. And so today I am scaring the crap out of myself by doing this sans script and just talking with you, which is a strange thing to do because it is a total monologue sitting alone in my room. So, with that, I'm wondering if you would humor me with a little bit of connecting with ourselves. And this is selfishly for me to connect with myself more, but also because whatever you're doing, and I always love imagining what you're doing. I'm imagining you're driving to work, or you just drop your kids off at school, or maybe you're going for a run or a walk, or you're like me, you're scrubbing toilets while listening to a podcast. I love imagining you out there. And if we could just take a moment and connect to ourselves. And the thing that just came to mind was that this morning I was talking with a client, and while we were talking, his his buzzer alarm went off on his phone. See, buzzer, alarm. I'll get there. His alarm went off on his phone, and I said, "Do we need to stop? What do you need to do?" And he goes, "Oh, that's just my alarm to take a breath." And I was like, "I love that. Let's take a breath together." And so we took a breath together, and then afterwards he told me about how when that alarm goes off now, and his 2-year-old daughter hears it, she goes up to him and she says, "Daddy, it's time to take a breath." And she goes, Um, and we both laughed and we're like, gosh, that's so perfect. So that's actually exactly what I want to invite you to do. There's a real word for that sound. It's called a lip trill. And in nervous system regulation, it's one of the ways to stimulate your vagus nerve and actually make a bid to your parasympathetic nervous system to bring you down out of the upregulation. So it can be kind of hard to do. So give it a shot wherever you are, if you can do it. Take a big breath in. And if that one's hard for you, you could do one of my other favorite ones that a 2-year-old would also love, which is saying the word wow over and over again. Wow. Wow. And if you're watching the video, you can see my mouth. I'm making sure my mouth gets really big when I do that. Wow. Wow. So if you're in a place where people aren't going to think you've just lost your mind, you might try that and just see both of those things, the lip trill and the wow. You can feel it maybe when you do it. They stimulate the muscles in your cheeks, in your lower face, in your neck, in your lips, and all of those things help stimulate your vagus nerve. And just notice where you land. If you feel a little bit more connected to yourself, or you feel like you turned the speed down on whatever was happening for you, because that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about speed or the lack thereof, the opposite of that, slowing down, resting. So when I was imagining you, when I was saying a few minutes ago that I imagined you driving in your car and running errands or doing chores in the house, in my dream world, some of you are listening to this while you are doing a puzzle, or you are sitting in your coziest chair knitting, or you're tinkering in the garage on a fun project, or you're just laying down doing nothing but listening. I imagine that's very few of you. And maybe I'm completely skewed here based on my own life and the people I talk to, but my sense is that a lot of us have a really hard time slowing down and resting. We feel like it's some privilege that we have to earn that by doing more. And this is the time of year where the perennial invitation is to slow down. This comes out the first week of December. So in the northern hemisphere, this is, we're going into the darkest, longest nights, the shortest days. It's cold. Everything in nature is hibernating or falling away or drawing back into its center. And that's the invitation for all of us. And very few of us do it. And, it's not like this is a new conversation. I think we all hear this conversation every year where it's like, this is the time to be slowing down. And instead, it's Q4 wrap up and it's holiday rush and it's all the things. So I think we are perennially having this conversation because we haven't gotten it yet. We haven't learned how to slow down. So I guess the direction I'll go first is this is coming up for me because a lot of my clients are talking about how their days feel untenable or how their morning routine is just designed to wind them up into their day rather than create a sense of connection and pause and peace before they get into their day. They're talking about how they're wishing they spent more time with their children rather than seeing them briefly when they get home from work and then everybody going their own separate ways. They're talking about how they're tired all the time, how they're burned out. And yet there's this sense that for as much as they're longing to stop, they literally don't know how. So I'm curious as I'm saying that if this is resonating with you. And if this isn't you, I imagine it's someone you love, that there's someone in your life that you're like, oh, I just wish you could slow down a little bit and rest. Because my sense is that it's probably true for me to say to you, you're doing too much. And I don't say that from the place of judgment or admonishment. I say that from the place of like, oh, sweetie, you're doing too much. Like lip drill again, like you're doing too much. Like, can we just rest? So this is up, like I said, because it's coming up a lot for my clients, but it's also really front and center for me right now in my life. I am someone who has typically had a hard time really stopping. And I would say, to be fair, I'm really good in a day-to-day basis of like making sure I take a walk or meditate or sit and read or sit and write. But in a way, and maybe this resonates with you, in a way, sometimes I feel like I'm doing those things so that I can do more. Like I'll take the walk or I'll do the meditation, but then I work way too many hours in a day. There isn't balance. A few years ago, if you've been around in my universe for a while, you'll know that I took a sabbatical. And I said, I'm going to take 3 months off. And I was doing that because it was the end of a few really, really busy years of work for me during the pandemic, not to mention all the other stress that went along with the pandemic. And I knew that my husband was going to be having some surgeries coming up. And even though he was very clear that I didn't need to be his full-time caregiver, I was clear that I couldn't care for him in the way that I wanted to and take care of the stuff around the house that he wasn't going to be able to do, while also seeing clients and doing all the work that I did. So I was like, I am going to take off 3 months and I made this big announcement, and I pulled back from all my clients, which was a really painful thing to do. And then I worked my ass off for 3 months, but I just didn't get paid. Which is to say, When I took the sabbatical, I was like, oh, this is such a great time for me to do this big project that I wouldn't have time to do while I was seeing clients and running programs and such. So I spent thousands of dollars paying someone to help me turn my group coaching program, yours truly, into a DIY course. And I worked pretty much every day. And the way I rationalized it was, well, I don't have any appointments. I don't have any obligations to someone outside of my house. So I can just be in this creative mode. But I knew when I was doing it, it wasn't what I wanted to be doing. I knew what I wanted to be doing was rest. But there was this part of me that was saying, well, yeah, but if you do this now, if you do all this work now, you're buying yourself rest in the future. And as I'm saying that, two things come up. One is how angry I was when I was doing that, because I knew what I really wanted was rest, and I'm not dumb. Like I was suspecting that if I kept doing this work, it wasn't going to actually buy me more rest, because if I didn't rest in the first place, why would I, even if I was making passive income, start resting then? The other thing that comes up for me as I share this story is I I'm curious if you're nodding your head, and I'm sure the story is sounds different, or the flavor is different, but is there a way that you bargain with yourself around, well, once I make this much money, I'll be able to rest, or once the kids are in such and such grade, I'll be able to rest, or once I have a different arrangement for my work, then I'll be able to rest. And if that's the case for you, if you also are aware of being angry with that, I'm going to call it a compulsion inside of you that keeps you from just being. I was going to say just being able to, and then I was like, no, I can just stop the sentence there. Just being. What I know from the work that I've done with clients over the last almost 20 years is there is a part in all of us, I call it a strategic part, that that got the message a really, really long time ago, like when you were a kid, that being productive or getting good grades or excelling in a sport made other people like you more. You know, it made your parents proud of you. It made your parents more loving or more generous or happier. It made your teachers or your coaches respect you. It gave you a sense that you belonged, right? Like if you had that kind of reinforcement as a kid, that your ability to excel or produce, or that what you did got you praise rather than who you were, then you're going to have this part of you that believes for the rest of your life that that's how you get it, that that's how you get love, that that's how you get belonging, that that's how you get respect. And that part of you is going to push really, really hard for you to keep doing and excelling and producing, because it believes that's the only way you're going to get the love and the belonging and the safety that you want. When I'm working with clients around this part, I always have them give it a name. My favorite ones have been Get It Done Gal, Bossy Pants, Hard Nosed Bitch. You know, these parts of you that are like, they're driving, they're pushing, they're striving. The other reason I have people name them is because I want you to be able to differentiate that that is a part of you. It's not who you are. Because for so many of the people that I work with, they have become so identified with this ambitious, striving, workaholic, always going, always doing part of them, that they actually don't see that it isn't who they are. It's not their personality. So as we're sitting here talking, I would love for you to be considering, what is that part in me? If I were to name the part of me who I feel is compelling me to never stop, even when I want to, what would you name that part of you? How would you, if they were in the room with you, like if they aren't you, they're part of you, and you could imagine them sitting across from you in the room you're in, what would they look like? And I can guarantee you, no matter how you feel towards them, whether you're annoyed with them or angry with them or tired of having them around, I can guarantee you that they are one of your strongest allies in the sense that they really do love you. They want you to have safety and belonging and mattering, and they want you to be loved. They just don't know that there's another way than running you ragged. Because they want this for you so much, they won't step down until you show them that you know a different way to feel loved and to feel safe. And so this is where the work of slowing down comes in, which is to say, in order to be willing to slow down, you have to show these parts of you that when you do slow down, that you're okay, that you're safe, that you do feel loved. They're the reason why it feels like it's a risk to do less, to slow down, to take the 10 minutes to meditate rather than check your email, to sit down and hang out with your kids rather than doing one more thing on your to-do list. It's that I'm moving my hands near my belly in this churning motion. When these parts of us are running the show, it feels like there's this constant engine moving and churning, like go, 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 don't stop. Because to stop means risking that you won't be loved, that you won't be safe, that you won't belong. And it sounds silly to say that because in your rational mind, you're like, well, of course I'm still loved if I don't check my email before breakfast. But in the moment when you wake up and you know, have that feeling of, I need to check my email, the thought of not doing it can feel so life and death, so strangely life and death, which is why I want to out this. This is your nervous system connecting to this conditioning you've had. This part of you that's saying, well, this is how we get love. This is how we get safety, by doing and producing. It gets wrapped up with your nervous system that's saying, well, gosh, it feels like if you don't do this, it's really threatening. So I'm going to keep you in upregulation. I'm going to keep you running and going and moving faster so that you survive. So if you're going to interrupt that, here's what I found. The first thing, I found that, at least in my own practice, when I want to change a pattern, for example, this pattern I've been wanting to change recently is one that I just mentioned. It's about the email thing. So I know that if I wake up first thing in the morning and open my computer, I'm just gonna go to town. Like I'm gonna start working, and so by 9 o'clock I've already worked 2.5 hours. So I gave myself this assignment that I'm not going to look at screens before 9 o'clock. And I usually get up around 6 or 6:30. Though there's a part of me that absolutely is longing for those quiet moments where I read a book instead, or I've been doing a puzzle recently, or meditate, or I write. There's another part of me that's like panic mode, like I have to see what's going on in the world. So the practice I've been doing with that is I've literally been saying to myself, you're safe not to open your computer. And it doesn't make you unlovable. You will be loved. You are loved. And I don't know, it feels silly to say it, but when I say it, it does feel like there's a balm that happens in my chest. Things slow down. So this would be my first recommendation to you, is that if there's a pattern that you're wanting to change around your morning routine or your bedtime routine, or around getting back to your meditation practice, or around stopping work at a certain time, or giving yourself time to exercise, or giving yourself time to be around your family, whatever it is that you're trying to get to, and interrupting the pattern of not being able to stop, try saying to yourself, it's safe to do this, and you'll be loved if you do this. and see if that has a calming effect on that urgency from that part of you, the get it done girl part of you that's like, no, got to get it done, then we can rest. The other thing that I've noticed as I'm trying to rest more is to focus on not what I am not being able to do, but focus on what I am being able to do. Let me expound on that a bit. So, back to this no screens before 9 a.m. I can get really wrapped up in the fact that I'm missing out on maybe an email that's really important or a text that I should be responding to. I can get wrapped up around, like, well, gosh, if I don't get started till 9, I might not get things finished, all that stuff. But I can also choose to really savor how good it feels to be in my body, in my house, in my life, in the present moment. It sounds so hackneyed, but there's been this real aha for me in the sense of when I'm not spending the first few hours of the day looking at screens, I'm realizing that what's happening is I'm not spending the morning fragmented all over the world, emailing somebody in Canada and then somebody in New Zealand, and it's so cool to be able to do that. But there's also this way that it puts me everywhere but where I am. And so to focus on the fact that yes, I could be doing that and I'm not, but what I am doing, being in my body, in my house, in my life, with Mr. Moon in real time feels so damn good. So, this is the other piece, then I would say. If you're trying to interrupt a pattern of doing and you're wanting to rest more, really take it in when you are resting, savor it. Look for the way that the safety and the belonging and the mattering and the being loved and the respect that strategic part of you thinks you can only get through doing. Look for the ways that those things exist in the non-doing, in the resting. Make it real to yourself, because that's going to train your nervous system that there's a different outlet, there's a different place to plug into to get those things that we all need in order to not just survive but to feel alive. The third thing that is very helpful in terms of being able to slow down, and not just slow down once, but to make it something that's much more accessible to you, is in those moments where you're doing the thing that is you not being a doer, when you're just sitting and drawing at your desk, or you're just playing backyard football with your kids, or you're just baking something for the sheer fun of it, not because you're trying to feed your family. Like when you're doing something that's just pure joy for you and makes you feel so filled up, call in that part of you. I don't know what you've named it, but your version of get it done girl, or your version of, I call mine recently shiny ambitious girl. The one who's just constantly looking for the next shiny object and is driven by ambition. Whatever that version is of that for you, that part of yours, invite it into the space with you when you are fully content. Imagine in your mind's eye, you could call them in and say, hey, check this out. I want you to see this. I want you to feel how I feel in this moment, because I'm okay. I really am. And I know how to get this thing that you've wanted to get from me all these years. I can get it right now, right here, doing what I'm doing. So trust me a little bit more. And I've found, listener, that if you can let this strategic part of you that's constantly going and doing and pushing see you happy and content and safe and feeling loved while doing something that brings you peace and joy and ease, they stand down a little bit. They get less, what's the word I'm looking for? Frantic. And you have more say in getting to infuse your days with a little more rest and a little more a pace that isn't just sustainable, because fuck sustainability, right? Like, we can do better than just surviving. We can do better than just sustaining. To bring into your life a pace that allows for more joy and connection. So, this is my invitation to you this season. And even if you're listening to this in June or March, I guarantee you're still doing too much. It's not just December that we all could use the medicine of slowing down. So whenever you're listening to this, I want to invite you to have a hey wait moment with your relationship with rest or non-doing, and see how you want to do that for yourself. For me, it's no screens before 9. For you, it might be putting aside a time for a hobby that you love and you haven't done, putting aside time for your family to just be together and connect. So, my question for you is, what do you want more spaciousness for? And then do your best in the coming weeks to make that happen. And the 3 things, I'll go over them one more time, that will make that happen is, in the moments right before you're going to do that thing that you've made space for, remind yourself that it's safe to take this time to do that and that you're loved. The second thing is to really savor it when you're doing it. At least take one moment where you take what I call a visceral snapshot, where you're like, this is how I feel when I do this. This is why I do this. And then the third thing, right after you've taken that visceral snapshot, is to call in your strategic part that keeps you doing for safety, belonging, and mattering. And let them see you feeling complete and safe and loved. Because that will be the thing that helps make this a more natural, accessible thing for you to do, rather than something that's like, okay, I'm gonna do this, as you're gritting your teeth and bearing down. Now that I've given you that assignment, I want to tell you the assignment that I've given myself. But before I do that, I want to go back. At the beginning of the podcast, I said something to the effect of, the reason why I'm wanting to talk about this topic of slowing down and resting more is because it's really coming up a lot for my clients, but it's also really been the central inquiry of my life for the last couple of months. And that is because I've been having some health issues that I'm not really ready to talk about, but what I will say is that they are primarily affecting my circulation, my heart, and ironically enough, my nervous system. And I've been getting schooled in not being able to do more. Rather than it being a choice, it's been forced upon me. And recently, I was telling a friend about all of what was going on for me, and she said, gosh, do you feel betrayed by your body? And I said, no, actually, I feel beckoned. I feel like my body is saying what I said to you earlier, sweetie, you're doing too much. Like, shh, just calm down, sit down. And, this is a genetic condition. It's been there my whole life. It's just that some changing hormones and perimenopause and some other stressors that I didn't know they were stressors until they happened have really turned it on in my body. So for as much as I am really grieving a lot of the things that I miss doing, like going for hikes and being able to be more active and have energy to be with my friends, for as much as I'm missing all of that, I'm really loving doing less. It took me a while to figure it out, but I'm doing much better at doing less, and that's where I guess I wanted to tell you this, to say I am I'm bringing this invitation to you to have a hey wait moment with your relationship to rest and doing less, because I'm slightly into it myself now, where I'm doing so much less and finding the richness in that and the sweetness in that. And so I want to say to you, to that part of you that's maybe scared that you can't slow down, that I felt that way too. it feels like trying to stop a freight train. And once I got it slower, it got a lot easier. And I know that will be true for you as well. And I want to give you the blessing of the balm of your own ease that is out there for you to receive. Because in a world that is moving too fast and doing too much, it is a great act of courage to do less. I recently was listening to a podcast interview with the author of Fat, Salt, Acid, Heat. I remember her first name is Samin. I can't remember her last name. But she was saying that she wished more people would do less. And she was talking about it in the realm of chefs in the kitchen. That she's like, they just make food so complex and so complicated, and you can make good food simply. And so she was talking about it in the context of chefs, but when I heard her say that she wanted more people to do less, I was like, yeah, that's what I want. I would love more people to do less, because I think that slowing down, that resting back into your body and the place that you're in the people that you're with, is the way to be more relational, is the way to be more connected. You can't be relational and have intimacy when there's constant speed and doing. So more people doing less is my wish. And my blessing to you is that you find the balm of rest and ease in these coming days and weeks. And then the final thing I'll share is my assignment for myself for really resting more in the coming weeks is that I am going to take a break from the podcast. When I started doing this, I just assumed I would do it every Thursday forever and ever, because that's how my shiny, ambitious girl's brain works. And then I realized, you know what? I could take a break. And I'm coming back because I absolutely love doing this. I love, love, love bringing you, I was going to say bringing you interviews with people, but before that, I love getting to talk with people who I respect and find interesting, and then getting to share that with you. So I will come back in January. I'm still discerning based on my own pacing, whether when I come back it'll be every other week or it'll be every week again. But I will come back, and I will tell you right now, I have some really amazing guests in mind that I'm going to be working on bringing to you. So in the meantime, if part of your rest is to lay around and listen to podcasts, then here's your opportunity to catch up on the ones that you haven't had a chance to listen. Because, God, there's just, when there's a new thing every week that comes out that you love, it's great to have it, but it's also like, oh, when am I going to listen to that? So here's some space. You can go back and listen to the ones you haven't listened to. And I'm going to take some rest and not think about the podcast for a little bit. And when I come back in mid to late January, I'm going to be so happy to be with you again. So thank you for being with me today. I appreciate you bearing with me today as I tried this a different way. I'm curious if it felt different to you. It felt different to me. I'm absolutely sure that I didn't say all the things that I wanted to say. I'm absolutely sure that I said things pretty convoluted, that if I had been reading a script, they would have come out clearer. But I also absolutely know that I felt more present with myself. That's me tearing up. And I felt more present with you. And that's the hope. So thank you for listening and for being here, and wishing you so much contentment and ease and joy in the coming weeks. And I'll talk to you next year. And in the spirit of reciprocity, if there was a single episode that really touched you during this first season, or if you loved every one of them and you listened every Thursday when they came out, or you found yourself telling your friends about it, or doing something differently because of something you heard on this podcast, I have a very simple way that you could be in reciprocity with me for that. It's a website called buymeacoffee.com, and it's a place where you can symbolically buy me a coffee as a thank you for whatever it is that you've gotten from this podcast. I have created a page for me that is buymeacoffee.com/jmoonfields. And if you feel moved to buy me a coffee or two for what you've gotten out of this, I would be greatly appreciative. And I actually don't drink coffee and never have, so technically you'd be buying me a tea, but they don't have a website called buymeatea.com. So we're going with buymeacoffee.com/jmoonfields. It's a small gesture, and yet it would land in my body as a very big gesture that is much, much appreciated. So thanks for considering that. Thank you so much, listener, for being here today. I hope something resonated with you and helps you to have a good experience of yourself in your life and your relationships, because you really do deserve that. And if someone came to mind while you were listening today, could you take a moment and share this episode with them right now? And if you haven't had a chance to yet, please leave a review for Hey Wait, because both of those things help new people find the show. And it means a lot to me to be able to reach and connect with new people around this work. With that, if you have an idea for a guest or a topic, or you have a question for me, feel free to reach out to me at Hey Wait with Jay on Instagram. Hey Wait is produced by Viv at First Click VA, and the original music is by Dalton Grant. And hey wait, before we go, I want you to remember, your insights matter, and the right people will meet you there. So stay with yourself. And I'll see you next time.